Hey class, today we are going to read a story about apples and apple trees. And remember, good readers, not only do they say the words correctly, but when they're done reading, they can answer some questions about the story. When they're done reading the story, they've learned something new. So we're going to read this story together today, and we're going to really think about what we remember from the story and how to go back and find answers in the story if we forget. So let's read this together. I want you to put your finger under the word, and I want you to read it with me. Apples grow on trees. Apple trees have flowers that bloom in the spring. The flowers are called apple blossoms. Small green apples begin to grow in the summer, where the flowers were in the spring. In the fall, the apples are ripe and ready to pick off the apple trees. Do you like apples? Let's read it one more time. This time we're going to read it a little quicker and really listen and pay attention to our end marks. Apples grow on trees. Apple trees have flowers that bloom in the spring. The flowers are called apple blossoms. Small green apples begin to grow in the summer where the flowers were in the spring. In the fall, the apples are ripe and ready to pick off the apple tree. Do you like apples? Let's look at our first question. It says, what is something you know about apple trees? Well, after I read the story, I did see some things in the passage that were new to me that I didn't know about apple trees. One of the things that I didn't know is that the flowers on an apple tree are called apple blossoms. So I'm going to write this sentence right here. The flowers are called apple blossoms. You can pause your video if you like and write something else that you know about apple trees. Maybe something that wasn't in the passage. Maybe something you knew before you started to read this story. Day 2 says, let's visualize. Draw a picture of what you think an apple tree looks like in the spring. Well, I'm going to go back to the story and I'm going to use some of the details from the story to kind of give me an idea about what I might need to draw. So it says, apple trees have flowers that bloom in the spring. The flowers are called apple blossoms. So it looks like in the spring, small green apples begin to grow in the summer where the flowers were in the spring. So in the spring, it looks like the blossoms, the flowers have gone away, and there are green apples beginning to grow. So I'm going to draw an apple tree. And I'm actually going to get 2 different color greens. So here's the trunk of the tree. And I'm going to draw the leaves of the tree like this. But then I'm going to take my other green and I'm going to draw some green apples on the tree. They're not quite red yet in the spring. The passage said that they're small green apples. So I guess after the flowers bloom, the little green apples come. And then I guess in the fall, the green apples turn red, and then we can pick them and eat them. Remember, if you need to pause your video to catch up, you can do that. All right, let's look at the next page. So we're going to have to fill in the blanks. We're going to have to look back in this story to find the answers. Let me get my highlighter so I can help find it. Apple trees have flowers called apple blank. So let's look and see. The flowers are called apple blossoms. So I can find that word right in the story. Let me write blossoms. Good. If you need to pause to catch up, you can do that. Let's look at the next fill in the blank. Apples are blank and ready to pick in the fall. Let's see if I can find that sentence. In the fall, the apples are ripe and ready to pick off the apple trees. So in the fall, the apples are ripe and ready. So let's put the word ripe on number 2. Ripe. And the last sentence says, apple trees have flowers that blank in the spring. Let's see. Apple trees have flowers that bloom in the spring. So I can find the answers back in my story. I just have to look for it. Apple trees have flowers that bloom in the spring. Let's look at their vocabulary word. It says, what does it mean when a fruit is ripe? Well, I already colored the word ripe. Let's read this sentence and see if there are any clues to help me figure out what the word ripe means. In the fall, the apples are ripe and ready to pick off the apple trees. Well, if the apples are ripe and they're ready to be picked, that means ripe must mean that they are ready to pick. You wouldn't want to eat fruit that's not ripe. It probably wouldn't taste as good because it's not quite ready yet. Number 5. What have you eaten that was made from apples? Which one is your favorite? I want you to think about all the different types of apple products that we tried. We tried apple butter and apple jelly and apple juice. I want you to think about those and write them down. Maybe you've had something else made from apples, maybe apple pie or apple sauce. So write down the things that you've eaten that are made from apples. And then after you're done with that, I want you to tell me which one of those apple products was your favorite. Remember, if you need to pause the video to catch up, you can do that. Good job, first grade.